afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Catfish Combat with Joel. So it is a beautiful, warm day the Lord has made. Finally warm. It's been a very cold and rainy week the past few days. So yeah, we got a nice day. So for today, I'm going to do something that, as a catfisherman, if you're going to get serious about this, if you're going to really hunt for big blues and big flatheads, you need to know how to do this, and that's how to throw a cast net. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the cast net itself. I'm going to go over what to do when you first receive a new one, how to treat it prior to learning how to throw it, all the little things that you need to do to get it ready to throw, and then I'll do a step-by-step demonstration of how to actually throw one. I'm going to break this video up into two parts. This will be part one, where I show, again, the basics of the cast net, how to throw it, and the second part, I'll actually go out on the water, show you how to locate shad, using your sonar, what they look like, especially in the fall and winter, and then throw the cast net and show you what to do with them when you actually catch them. So, all right, hope you guys enjoy this and learn something. Okay, so when you first get a cast net, it's going to arrive to you, or you buy it at the store, in, say, like a little container like this, okay? Yeah, that's fine. So the first thing you want to do is take it out of that container. Just FYI, you're never going to get back in this thing. It comes up all wrapped up in a ball. Yeah, so you can use this for other things. These are great containers for, like, you know, worms and things like that. That's what I usually use it for. Okay, either they're going to come in that, or in this case of my new cast net, it's going to come in a bucket like this. So when you open it, I've already taken this one out before, but it comes up in a clump ball. It's usually wrapped up in the rope. It's common sense, guys. Unwrap the thing, cut off the little plastic ties that are holding everything together. This one might be able to keep this bucket. It looks like it might be a 3 or 4 gallon bucket, but just get yourselves a good 5 or 7 gallon bucket to store this thing in. That's the easiest way that I've found to do it. All right, so next step after we take our net out of the box and unwrap it and cut off all the little plastic ties is we're going to want to lay it out in a flat open area. In this case, my children's playroom upstairs. Okay, so why do we want to do that? We want to lay it out flat so we can inspect the net and make sure that there's no deformities, there's no holes in it, there's nothing weird going on, okay? Let's go over a little cast net terminology. So first thing we're going to talk about, this is the lead line, okay? So this little outer rope right here that goes on the outside of the cast net itself, these lead lines right here, these are the weights. And what those weights do, they serve two purposes. One is they are the force that when you actually throw this net causes the net to open, okay? The other thing that they do is when the net hits the water, it's supposed to land like a pancake. Those lead weights actually make it sink, okay? It doesn't sink like a pancake. This is something I had to visualize once I saw it, is once you actually see it hit the water, it actually falls like a bell. It makes a bell shape once it falls using those lead weights, okay? So that's the purpose of the lead line. Okay, next up is the braille lines. So the braille lines, and there's 20 of them in this net. These are, all this is monofilament fishing line, and they're all tied off to the lead lines, okay? They all converge at this point at the top of the net called the horn. See the horn, this is where all the braille lines actually end up meeting with the rope. So what the purpose of these braille lines is that once the net lands, and as it sinks and sinks and you get it to the bottom, when you pull up on the rope, like so, all the braille lines close together. Think of like if you've ever been to the Outback Steakhouse, a bloomin' onion. Okay, think of a bloomin' onion in reverse. It's basically what it looks like when the cast net closes on the shad. It creates a scoop under them so they can't actually escape. So that's the purpose of all the braille lines. Next up, we have the mesh, and all the meshes, it's simply the net itself. Okay, this is just nylon fishing line that's basically molded together in usually triangle, diamond, or some type of hexagon pattern. In this case, they're diamond patterns. All that is the mesh. That's just like the meat and potatoes of the net itself. And last of all, we have the rope. The rope, this is what actually attaches to your arm. So when you throw this net and you keep the cuff on your wrist, the rope is what you're going to pull back, and it's going to control the braille lines in order to close it. Okay, so that's all the nomenclature and the pieces of the net. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about the features of a net, okay? So for cast nets, the different features of how you do measurements whenever you're selecting a net. Let's start with the radius, okay? So when the net is talking about the size of the net, it's not talking about the full diameter, it's talking about the radius, which is 1 point from the center to the edge. In this case, this net is 8 feet, okay? So overall, it's a 16-foot net. Its diameter is 16 feet long, but its radius, and that's what we go by the measurement, is 8 feet. The next measurement you see here is 5/8 inch mesh. Okay, what that means is that's the size of the mesh here. That's the opening of the diamonds. Now, why that's important? The larger the mesh, the faster the net will fall because it's less resistance in the water. Now, the downside to that is that fish can actually escape if you have too big of a one. And if you're trying to get really small shad, like crappie size or bass size shad, probably not a great net for that. They can get through it. But if you're looking for the big catfish shad like I am, 5/8, ½ inch, that's fine. You'll do just fine with that. And then the next one is clear mono. That just tells you the color of the mesh itself. Okay, the last measurement we're going to talk about is the pounds per radius foot. Now, what this has to do with, it has to do with how heavy the net itself is. It has to do with how many lead weights are on the lead line. Now, the heavier the net, the faster it's going to fall. The nets that I've typically been using have been about 1 pound weight per radius foot. This one's a little bit heavier. It's 1.5. So this one's going to drop pretty quick. That's really important when you're doing when you're throwing a cast net, especially in the winter, shad or deep. You want that net to get down there on them really fast. If you have a really light net, it's maybe 1/2 pound or 3/4. That thing's going to take a while to get down there. The shad are going to escape it. So this one's a little bit heavier. It's going to drop on them, like I said, pretty quick. The model that I'm using here, this is the GS 1500. It's made by Phytech. Big shout out to Phytech. So about 3 weeks ago, my cast net died. Yeah, I threw it and it got caught on something submerged and it ripped the net in half. And I've normally been able to repair them. This thing was a 7-foot slash, like right down the middle. Tried to stitch, spent 3 hours stitching it. It had torn so much of the mesh out that it was useless. So I ordered a new one. And the one I've been throwing previously was the SS 1000, okay? And that was the same. It was an 8-foot radius, 5/8 inch mesh, but it was 1 pound weight per radius foot. That one, the one they sent me, was actually deformed. It had the braille lines. 2 of the braille lines were about 1.5 to 2 feet longer than all the others, and then 2 of them were the opposite but short. They were short 1.5 to 2 feet. So I threw this net on top of a school of shad, and when I pulled on it, all the shad got out. I saw them fall out. And what had happened is as the braille lines were coming up, because they were short, it was pulling it early and creating an opening on the backside. I contacted Phytech and they were awesome. They sent me this net, which is more quality net than the one that I had. And yeah, they sent this one to me for free. So great customer service. Big shout out to Mark and customer service. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. And yeah, great company for these cast nets. So definitely recommend them. Okay, so now we're ready for our inspection. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically do an overview. We're gonna walk through the entire net, looking for any holes, any weird stuff. So do that for the entire net. You're gonna check the rope for anything weird, check the horn, make sure all the braille lines, make sure there's an even number. If you have an odd number, either the missing one or one might have broken. This is really important. Make sure that all these braille lines, when this thing is spread out, are even. If you have braille lines sticking out, like it looks like spaghetti strands sticking out, when the rest of them are tight like this and the net is actually spread out, that's where you have braille lines that are either too short or too long. Okay, a way to test that is when you actually pull. When you're finished with your inspection and you pull on this and it pulls it a scoop together, it should all come up in an even, like I said, reverse blooming onion. If it comes up like this, like there's 2 or 3 sticking way out and the bottom's hanging open, that's where you got a deformed net. All right, send that back. So the next step we're gonna do is for each one of these braille lines, you're going to see a little tag end here, okay? We're going to cut each one of these tag ends off. We're going to go around the entire net and cut them off. You don't want these catching the net as you throw it. So these are solid knots. I mean, you don't need a tag end. You don't need a long tag in there to hold it for strength or anything like that. So we're going to go down and cut each one of these off, okay? Okay, so I've trimmed off all the little excess tag lines. So now we're going to do our test, right? Moment of truth here. Make sure that this net's good. So we're going to gather our rope up in the middle here, and then we're just going to pull. We're going to pull the braille lines, okay? And as we pull them, see what I was talking about, the little bloomin' onion on the bottom there? They're all even. There's no crazy openings. Nothing's lopsided. So we've got a good net. All right. Okay, so for our next step after we've cut all the tag lines off is we want to soften this net, okay? When you first get a cast net, kind kind of the mono mesh material is kind of crunchy because it's all balled up. So it has what's called memory. All right, so it doesn't open very easily. It kind of crinkles and has a lot of bends in it. So what we want to do to get rid of that and make sure that this net is nice and soft and opens when we throw it is we want to soak it in fabric softener. So you can do this with either a small cube cooler or a 7-gallon bucket, anything like that. So I fill this with hot water, okay? And next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in about 4 cups of fabric softener. Okay. Oh, that's good smelling stuff right there. Well, at least my shad will die smelling like Downy. All right, so and we're going to stir this up with a spoon. Make sure that all that fabric softener gets evenly distributed. Okay. Should be good. And then we're going to set our cast net inside of this guy, inside of the cooler here. Okay, so we've submerged our net. We've tossed it in there and we're going to let it sit for about 48 hours. Let it soak up that fabric softener. Okay, so here we are 2 days later. So we let our cast net soak for about 48 hours in fabric softener. So what you want to do when that period of time is over is go ahead and take that net out and rinse it off. Either use a utility sink hose or in my case the bathtub. Rinse all the fabric softener off, okay? Next step you want to do is lay your cast net out on a flat surface, preferably outside on a sunny day so it'll dry off. As you can see, the material, if you can feel this, is much softer than it was before. A lot of the memory is out. So you want to lay it out flat and stretch it out. And what I mean by that, don't stretch it really hard. All you're doing is just basically laying it as flat as you can so there's no folds, so this isn't folded under. So basically there's just a little tiny bit of tension on all of the corners, and then I just have them staked down. Those are fishing rod holders. These are some type of, yard stake for plants. Anything like that is fine. What you don't want to do is have this pulled out to where you have that any type of starring effect or where it's really stretching the nylon. All the purpose of this is just to make sure that the net, as it dries without all that memory in it and dries straight flat. This will help you when you're trying to throw it, and it'll make it a lot easier to throw. So it's about noon, so I'm gonna leave this out here till probably about 4 o'clock. Just make sure it's dry, and then yeah, that'll be it. Our net will be prepped. Okay guys, so this is 2 days later. This is after we've soaked our cast net in fabric softener for 2 days. We trimmed off the tag lines, let it stretch out for a few hours, let it dry out in the sun so there's no memory in it. So now we're gonna get ready to throw it, okay? So whenever you're getting ready to throw your net, it's called loading your net, okay? So here's how we're gonna load. From the bucket, so you take the cuff. If you're right-handed, you're gonna put this cuff on your right hand. If you're left-handed, you're gonna do the exact opposite, okay? You're gonna make some coils. Now, I do an arm wrap essentially, okay? Now when I'm doing this, don't make it super tight so you create memory in it. And you're going from the outside of your arm to the inside, okay? So just like that, just to make nice, even coils. See, I'm not tightening, it's just nice and loose. Just makes a nice coil, okay? So get all the way to the horn. All right, now we're gonna take the rope off the hand. Okay, so as we're doing this, we're gonna pull the whole cast net out. I'm gonna keep this rope in my right hand. I'm gonna keep the horn in my right hand as well, okay? So we're gonna pull and cast it out, shake it out. When you shake that out, that gets some of the tangles out, okay? Now, the way I've learned to throw a cast net is very different from what you'll typically find on most YouTube channels explaining this. For months and months, I looked at dozens upon dozens of videos where you're folding it over and on itself, and you wrap this around the flux capacitor and the 1.21 gigawatts, and I could not throw it. I mean, I throw a cigar at best. Most of the time it was a tangled mess. Could not get that one right. Until I found this one video on Phytech's website. I threw it once and 80% pancake, landed almost completely flat, and was able to consistently reproduce that. So I really think this is kind of the best way to do it as a beginner. It's the most simple. I'm gonna explain how to load it, and I'm gonna explain why the net is opening and what it's doing as it's opening. That'll hopefully make a lot more sense, okay? Okay, so as I said, we've got our rope coiled here. So now we're gonna take the net, like so, and we're gonna wrap it like that. So the coil, see how it's actually following a coil with the excess line, and it's going like that, okay? So it's going from the outside and then coming back towards the inside, so it's creating that coil. I'm gonna grab that all with my right hand. I'm gonna get it to my belt line. That's very, very important. That depends on how tall you are, but start with your belt line. You're gonna hold all that in your right hand, okay? So all I'm doing is I've got the outside of the net, the main body of the net is towards my front here, towards my left foot, and the coil is going towards my right foot, okay? Towards the rope as well. So you're gonna take it like that. Now, you're gonna lift it up, and to load it, you're gonna take the net from your 6 o'clock position, and you're gonna fan out and pull about 1/3 of the mass of the net, okay? And then you're gonna put it on your elbow, just like that. And you're gonna have these two lines, two of the lead lines, one running closest to you and one running away from you. Grab the one closest to you and fan off, means pull in your left hand about another 1/3, okay? That's about 1/3. So I've divided the net up into thirds. I've got 1/3 on my elbow, I've got 1/3 in my center, right here where my knee is, and I've got 1/3 out here. Now, when I throw this, I'm going to rear back, and I'll show that all in one fluid motion, but I'm gonna go back. What that's gonna do with this 1/3 by my knee and the 1/3 behind me is that lead is gonna sling back, and then as I swing it forward, it's just like a pendulum. The momentum is gonna carry that open. This 1/3, when you throw it, let's say I'm gonna throw right to my 12 o'clock. This 1/3 in my left hand is gonna go out to my 9 o'clock. That weight's gonna throw it out to my 9. This piece right here by my knee is gonna go out to my 3. And the part on my elbow here is basically just gonna drop off my elbow, okay? So as I throw it, I'm gonna let my left hand come out a little bit like a frisbee, and I'm just gonna let go with my right hand, okay? And what that'll do, like I said, is it opens to your 9 o'clock on this hand, your 3 o'clock on the part by my knee, and then this part on my elbow just drops off at your 6, and it will create a nice flat pancake. All right, I'll show you guys in one fluid motion here. Okay, so yeah, that's about an 80% pancake right there. We have a little bit of fold right there, but that's pretty acceptable as far as getting some shad there. So you saw the technique as it swayed back, sways forward. That 1/3 goes out to the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and then this one just drops off at the 6. Some little tweaks here. So if you're getting a lot of this, like this end particularly folding under, so that's the end that's coming off of your elbow. So make sure that these two ends are kind of going out before you actually drop your elbow and let it sink, okay? Because usually what's happening is you're dropping your elbow too soon, so the momentum of those two is causing this to scoop, okay? So just make sure those two ends go out in their momentum first before you drop your elbow on this one. Yeah, this'll definitely work. So, okay, the cast net hits the water. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna start coiling your rope back up, okay? As it's sinking, because remember, as it hits the water, it's gonna sink like a bell. And then you're gonna coil it up, so you're gonna get that slack out, because this is, I believe, a 30-foot rope, and you don't want it to hit with too much slack. And you're gonna feel the rope, it's gonna have tension on it as it falls. When it hits the bottom, it's gonna go limp. When that hits the bottom, you're gonna immediately pull up on it, okay? You're gonna pull and tighten, and what that's gonna do, as I showed you guys before, is it's gonna scoop those fish up in there. And then again, as you retract it, just pull it up back on your arm, and then that's it. I mean, you pretty much got your fish. So, all right, that's how to throw a cast net. All right, guys, so last thing I want to talk about with the net is how to store and care for your net, okay? So when you get home, when you bring it back from a fishing trip, the best thing you want to do is lay this thing out, hose it off, spray off all the shad goo and all the fish slime off of it. Just helps keep it clean, helps maintain it really well. So how you want to store it and put it back in the bucket is do exactly the same thing you're doing to load it. So coil your rope up, nice and easy, nice even loops, and then just pull the braille lines in, and by the horn, bring it all the way in, so that all your lead lines are nice and tight like so, okay? Next, get your bucket you're storing it in. What you want to do is squeeze it like that so it's all straight. Shake it out a little bit to get the tangles out, and then all your lead lines, and you may have to hold it here to make sure that they all get in there evenly. Okay, so all my lead lines are in the bottom, and all I'm going to do is just coil the net. Okay, so just coil it in a clockwise pattern from bottom to top. And then just put the rope right on the top there. So what that does is when you pull it out and you're ready to use it, it's just gonna uncoil in a nice smooth manner so it doesn't get all tangled. That's the best way to store it. Just put your lid on it and you're good to go. All right, everybody, so that's going to wrap us up for this episode of Catfish Combat. This will be part 1. Part 2, again, I'm going to do later this week, where I'll actually show you guys how to use the net, how to use your sonar to find shad. We'll go catch some shad. I'll show you that whole process. I hope you enjoyed this episode. One thing I do want to say, throwing this net well takes a lot of practice, okay? It's not something you're probably going to pick up right away. So yeah, being a former infantry Marine, I was cursed with a condition called stupid fingers, just a giant nug. Yeah, so doing those like fine-tune things is really challenging for me. So this method worked for me, okay? I don't throw amazing pancakes, but I throw pancakes that are good enough to actually get shad. And that's really the important thing here. Shad are just, in my opinion, especially in the cold weather, superior bait, fresh shad, okay? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you like what you see, go ahead and follow me on Facebook, on Catfish Combat, same thing on Instagram. I've got both of those pages up. If you guys also want to go ahead and hit like and subscribe for this channel, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you guys do that. Love all of you guys, especially all my viewers. Yeah, you guys are giving me that great support, giving me the motivation to keep going. Again, greatly appreciate it. So remember, today's the day the Lord has made. Stay on mission for him. Go catch catfish, and God bless y'all.